You're wrong about Ariel's princess dress. I've talked about a lot of popular misconceptions about the Disney princesses over the years, from Cinderella's dress color to Aurora's eyes to Snow White's actual age. But today I wanted to take some time to talk about Ariel. One of the first video essays I ever made on this channel was about her pink princess dress, and now nearly 3 years later, I've decided to revisit the subject. Or more specifically, the fan theories about it. It's an undeniable fact that Disney has one of the biggest fandoms in the world, and when you have that many people passionate about a single subject, things can get messy. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of Disney fan theories out there, but more often than not, they're more fiction than they are fact. Now, as someone who has read plenty of fan fiction, I have absolutely no issue with people reinterpreting things in a new way for entertainment. However, that doesn't make those changes canon, something that many people on the internet seem to have forgotten. When something is canon, that means it's proven to be true within the story. For instance, it's canonical that Rapunzel turns 18 in Tangled, something we know for a fact because it's explicitly stated by the characters. A fanon, on the other hand, is a fan theory which has gained enough traction that the majority of the fan base believes it to be true, even if there isn't any evidence to prove it. An example of this is the popular theory that Tarzan's parents are also Anna and Elsa's, simply because they were both in a shipwreck. Disney themselves have also exacerbated the issue with their overuse of Easter eggs, which has left people searching for an answer to everything, completely ignoring the fact that sometimes the curtains are blue just because they're blue. Today we'll be talking about some popular fan theories about Ariel's controversial pink princess dress, and why most of them don't hold up. Let's get into it. One popular fan theory that I've seen about Ariel's dress is that Disney meant for it to be ugly all along, and I hope that everyone who got to that conclusion made sure to stretch before that reach. While the idea that the dress is unflattering to symbolize how Ariel is a fish out of water is certainly interesting, and would probably have happened in a newer Disney film, it doesn't make any sense if you actually pay attention to the movie. If Disney planned on having the pink dress be interpreted as ugly by the audience, they would have made that abundantly clear, which they literally do in the film with Ariel's makeshift dress, with both Flounder and Carlotta making funny faces when they see it, while the palace servants judge Ariel for showing up in rags. This allows the audience to understand that this dress is intended to be unflattering, but in a lighthearted way that adds to Ariel's charm. Whereas when she wears the pink dress, there's a grand reveal, with Ariel stepping into frame accompanied by dreamy music. Grimsby also compliments her, calling her a vision, and Eric can't stop drooling over her during dinner. And before anyone goes, oh, they were just being polite, which yes, is a real comment I've received about this subject in the past, just look at how the other characters react to Ariel's odd behavior. If they thought the pink dress looked bad on her, there'd be some indication of that. There's also the obvious fact that Disney wouldn't have marketed her in the dress if people were supposed to dislike it, but they did, for literal decades, with the vast majority of her merchandise featuring the pink gown, and her face character wearing it at the parks as well. Hell, she even wears it in Wreck-It Ralph and House of Mouse. In what world could all of that equate to Disney made the dress ugly on purpose? What I think a lot of people don't realize about the wardrobes of the Disney princesses is that they're a clear reflection of the time period they were made, just with vaguely historical influences to better fit their film's fairy tale setting. Take for instance Cinderella. Everything from her workwear to her ball gown to her wedding dress take inspiration from popular fashion trends around the time of her creation. Disney did this on purpose in order to appeal to contemporary audiences. After all, if young girls found the princesses fashionable, they were more likely to find them aspirational. With The Little Mermaid starting production in 1985, Ariel's outfits are rooted in that decade, with the dress when King Triton transforms her into a human being one of the most obvious examples, having no historical inspiration at all. Her wedding dress, while less glaringly modern, is similarly inspired by the decade, and features popular trends of the era like a peplum and leg of mutton sleeves. You'll also see some similarities to the dress Princess Diana wore to her wedding in 1981, which became the gold standard for bridal fashion at the time. Although Ariel's pink princess dress could pass as something vaguely mid-Victorian, like the wedding dress, it also incorporates 1980s fashion trends, but it's actually the color that makes this inspiration most obvious. During that time period, pastel pink was all the rage, with everything from nail polish to eyeshadow to jeans being found in the color. It was an especially popular choice for formal occasions, especially prom or weddings. By making Ariel's dress pastel pink, it was a quick way of signaling to audiences that this was a special moment, while also reminding them of special occasions where they likely wore something very similar. One of the biggest teen actors of the decade was Molly Ringwald, having risen to prominence after starring in several coming-of-age films by John Hughes. Considered some of the most honest depictions of teendom, the characters in his films dressed like real teens of the 80s. As a result, Ringwald often wore pink in these films, and 1986's Pretty in Pink was literally named after the color of the character's prom dress. Ringwald was so popular at this point in time that she was featured on the cover of Time magazine and proclaimed the teen queen of Hollywood. And it hardly comes as a surprise that she'd serve as a point of reference for Ariel for what the quintessential teen wore. Also, I can't help but point out that Molly Ringwald also had red hair, albeit in a far more natural hue. Compared to past Disney princesses, Ariel's personality was most like an actual teenager, growing pains and all. And by giving her clothing a 1980s twist, this relatability was able to extend past her personality. The other theory that I've seen, that I personally find less interesting, is that the dress is ill-suited for Ariel because they had to find something random for her to wear at the last minute, because that's the only logical reason for such an unflattering dress. Why we're trying to force logic into a story with talking crabs and merpeople is beyond me, but I digress. I find this to be a silly theory because Ariel is on land for a total of 3 days. 3. So if you think even one of her dresses was flattering on her because it was made for her, then you have to think all of them were. And I don't see people calling her blue dress ugly. Some fans have even gone as far as to give this borrowed dress a backstory, claiming that it was left behind by a visiting royal or that it was Eric's mother's. The first option, while not necessarily impossible, comes out of nowhere and has very little reasoning behind it. The second is less likely, as they wouldn't give her a dress owned by a dead woman, nonetheless the queen. And Eric's reaction to Ariel wearing his dead mother's dress would have been way different. Plus, there's no evidence that the dress is dated or off-trend, as it has a similar silhouette to the other outfits that Ariel wears in the film. Overall, I just find the dress was borrowed theory to be ill-conceived, especially since I never see anyone trying to figure out why Ursula had clothes. Everything Ariel wears in the movie should be attributed to simple movie magic. You're not supposed to be wondering how she got her hands on them, she just did. One of the reasons why I think there are so many theories about this dress is because people are desperately looking for a way to justify their distaste for it, instead of simply acknowledging that it's not their cup of tea, something which should honestly be expected. After all, it's not the 1980s anymore. Trends have changed. I personally like the dress, just not on Ariel, because I think that the color clashes with her fire engine red hair. Now, before people come at me, I'm not saying that every redhead can't wear pink. But what I am saying is that color theory exists. Just as an example, check out these yellow dresses worn by Cinderella and Aurora. The color washes them out and overall isn't very flattering. However, we do know that yellow works well on princesses with different coloring, as seen with Belle and Tiana. In Ariel's case, I think she looks better in shades of green, blue, and purple, which is why her more memorable outfits are in those colors. This, as well as public opinion of the pink dress souring in the last decade, is likely the reasoning for Disney giving her a new green look in merchandising, although I personally think that it should have been the purple dress from the sequel. Now, I know that this video might have seemed a little petty, but I'm not saying that Disney fans shouldn't come up with fun theories about the characters they love. After all, the entire point of these movies is to foster imagination and creativity. However, it's important to know where to draw the line between fantasy and fact. What fan theory would you like me to look into next? I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon!